The power of praise. Welcome to Monday with McCove. I am McCove Johnson. I am a Christian woman's life coach. I focus on inner healing, those things in our soul and our spirit that keep us stuck, on learning how to walk with God through those to healing and wholeness. What I want to talk about today is the power of praise and what praise does for us. And it's kind of interesting that I didn't do it this morning because I changed my schedule, and then I got home, I got ready to do it at 2 o'clock, and as soon as I sat down and got my computer awake, the power went out. And the power had been out while I was gone, apparently. So we have lots of wind today, so there could lose power again. Might be a tree on the power line. But anyway, a revelation that the Lord has been showing me, and I think I've talked about, is how focusing on Him and who He is and what He's done before we bring our problems to Him being a powerful thing. And a small piece of that I wanted to focus on today is praise and coming to His courts with praise. Like that's in the Psalms. You enter His courts with thanksgiving, His courts with praise. And a prayer model that I was taught growing up was ACTS, A.C.T.S. So adoration or praise, AC, spell, confession, then thanksgiving and supplication was those four pieces and but having that adoration as the first piece and focusing on God as that first piece. And somehow in Heidi, talking about praise and the power of praise. So somehow in my mind, praising God was about Him. Like somehow it was like feeding His ego, or it was building Him up, or it was like paying our dues before He would listen, or I don't know exactly. Just realizing in myself, like I would have never said that's what I believed about it, but I think that's what I believed about it. And so with this new teaching, this new revelation He's been showing me is, if we truly praise, if we truly pause and look at who He is and what He has done for us, it does build Him up, but it doesn't build Him up for His sake. It builds Him up for our sake, so that we can believe for the answers that we need for whatever we're facing right now. So like for the nation of Israel, He would call them again and again to remember, I'm the God that brought you out of Egypt. I'm the God of your fathers. I'm the God that did this. I'm the God that, parted the Red Sea. I'm the God that saved you from the angel of death. I'm the God that, drove out your enemies before you. Not to build up God and, we're going to tell you all the great things you've done so you can feel better about yourself. But we're going to tell ourselves all of the great things that you have done so that we can trust you're going to do great things for us too. And so just seeing that He's so good that even our praising Him benefits us. It's for our good to stop and see, who has He been through history? Who has He been to me personally? And so then I can, from that place, be like, okay, so this thing I'm facing now, even if it seems like the biggest thing I've ever faced, you can handle it. And I trust that you will, and you'll bring it to good because I've seen you do it again and again and again. CD says, coming from a background of performance-based everything, it's super hard to break the habit of making myself good enough to say He is my God. Yeah, it is. It is super hard. And from my own experience of struggling with performance and perfectionism, it's learning to heal those spiritual wounds and those emotional wounds so that I can learn to trust more. And do I want to trust more than I do? Absolutely. Do I trust more now than I used to? Absolutely. And trust is always a risk. It's always vulnerable. But it's the only way we find out if someone is trustworthy. It's the only way we find out if God is trustworthy, is if we give Him a little bit and allow Him to prove Himself. and if we open up to someone and allow them to prove themselves. It's the only way, and it's risky, but we remember God took that risk first. He took his only son and sent him to earth as a very fragile human being, risking whether we would accept that gift or not, risking whether the price he paid would ever be reciprocated. Like, he made that risk first. And so while it's still scary and still hard, we can make that risk because we have Christ in us, and we can take those risks in safe places. Like, we don't just trust everybody. We don't just share everything with everybody, but try little safe pieces so that someone can prove themselves. Be like, okay, you know, I threw this little piece of my heart out there that's like not a big deal. If you, I mean, it all is, it all hurts, but like something that's not going to destroy me, to see, were you trustworthy with that? You weren't? Okay, bummer. Then I guess our relationship stays here. But if I share a piece and you were trustworthy, now I can share a little bit deeper, and I can keep sharing deeper as long as you prove yourself trustworthy. And yeah, it's risky and it's hard, but so just that, from our perspective, God lets us down. From our perspective, he might not be worthy sometimes, because we're like, if you're so good and if you're so powerful, this should have turned out differently. But that again is part of that trust of like, we can't see everything. We don't know everything that was going on. I don't understand all the authority that the enemy has and all the ways that he can work. And, you know, part of it, if he's a thief, he's a liar, he doesn't follow the rules. He's a criminal. You know, criminals don't follow the rules. And yet somehow that not making God less, because the enemy can get away with stuff. I don't know. It's big and it requires trust. Yes, Dee, sometimes we prevent God from passing that test of trustworthy because of our, like, okay, God, if you're good, then this is going to happen. And it doesn't happen. But maybe that, you know, like I said, we just don't know. But we can allow that to keep us from trusting him and from other people too. Like, I'm not going to trust you until you do this just this way. And, you know, I don't know, it's all tricky and hard, but I'm learning and I'm growing, and just want to share that with you. But it's been super powerful for me, especially in this Christmas season, to be like, okay, come back to who God is and how good has he been for me. So now this other stuff that I'm facing, I can look at that through the perspective of how good he is and how good he has always been, instead of looking at my mess and being like, oh, I'm so desperate, please do something here. But instead to be like, oh, you've done this and you've done this and you've done this. So rather than saying, fix this situation just like this, I'm just giving you the situation, trusting you're going to fix it, or you're going to fix me, which is the bigger thing. Like, I can't control the situation. There's so many other pieces, but change me, draw me closer to you, teach me more of your heart. So I hope that's a blessing. Thank you for joining me, Dee. If you're watching this on the replay, I'd love to know your comments and thoughts, and I'll see you back next week.